Tyler, you know when you're looking to kit bash something and you find the perfect piece that fits exactly where you want it to?
Absolutely.
I imagine that's what it's like listening to the Vox Cascadia podcast. Probably. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing real good. Making some progress on my Nemesis Claw. I was looking at him today, getting ready to prime, and I was looking at my Visionary, and I ripped off both of his arms, and then because I was putting stuff away and found some better bits that just went with kind of the vision I had for him.
I mean, you've got to have your vision for the visionary, right? Right? Anybody? No? Okay. Yeah, I saw it on Discord today. It looks super cool. I'm sure we'll get Connor to pop it up on the Vox Cascadia Instagram. And speaking of Connor, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. Already downloaded those files or those photos that Tyler uploaded because the Visionary did look very nice. I love the cool extra detailed icon berry backpack he had. But I'm doing pretty good myself. A little sad because I was feeling pretty good today. I finally got my shipment of my Arcs of Omen Angron book, which will complete my collection of it, so I can play my boarding action games. Unfortunately, 2 or 3 or pages in it were just ripped in half somehow. So now I have to go find another one to order.
Yeah, I saw that. That sucks. If you can't find another one, let me know because that is the one Arcs of Omen book I actually have. I think you can reach out to GW directly, and they're pretty good about stuff like that. But I'm not sure if you have to buy it right through them. Did you get it from a third party?
Just off Amazon. So thankfully, I was able to replace it and get a new one on the way. But if that one also comes ripped, then yeah, I'll have to reach out to GW and be like, "I have a podcast. Please help," and hopefully that'll do the trick.
Yeah, if you reach out to them, they're usually pretty great about replacing stuff as long as they have it in stock, and they usually keep a little bit of back stock on that stuff.
Nice, that's good to know. I wasn't sure if I was out of luck because they still have the first Arcs of Omen book up for sale, but none of the other ones. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, one thing I've heard about Games Workshop is that their customer service is really good, and I have actually dealt with their customer service a little bit, and they will basically, you say hey, my guy's missing this piece, and they'll send you a whole new box of it too. And apparently sometimes they send you models that you didn't even think you were going to get. That's how we saw the Dante that came out last year.
Yeah, very good point. Maybe I'll get lucky and they'll send me my new AdMech models next time, or a prototype AdMech or something.
I don't know if you'll get that lucky. So besides messed up books, what have you been up to this week in the hobby, Connor?
Not a ton. Working on painting up some Marines, starting a little bit on the Crute, but just those guys mostly.
What about you, Tyler? What have you been doing? We heard you talk about that kit bash a little bit earlier. How are the rest of the Night Lords coming?
The rest of them are coming along good. I got them all base colors in. I got my initial oil wash for toning my blue colors so that they're where I want it, and then all the gold trim done. So I should have some pretty quick progress and have them table ready probably next week.
Have you been playing them at all in the state they are? Have you tried some games of the Night Lords yet?
Yeah, I've been proxying them a little bit. My legionaries are almost 1-for-1 the Nemesis Claw, other than a few small changes. So it's been really easy to proxy with those. In fact, I'm actually going to bring my Butcher over as my Skin Thief because he was the Praetor from Horus Heresy. So he already has the chain glaive and stuff like that. And he's probably my favorite painted in that warband. And yeah, I think they're really great. They really work well with my play style. I really, really enjoy them.
Nice. And from what I hear, it sounds like they're a nice upgrade to elites too.
Absolutely. They definitely play different than any other team that I played. The way that you're going to end up positioning the team to be safe is really weird because you stand in front of cover often, which is it's just strange. It gets a little mind bendy.
Yeah. Do you think that's going to be something that they're going to errata or FAQ? Because if you're, as I understand it, within Midnight Clad, if you are behind a piece of light cover, you are a fair target. But if you're in front of a piece of light cover, you're considered obscured.
I don't really think it needs an errata. I think it plays fine how it is. Just makes you have to think differently about the team and, have your opponent think a little bit differently because it's going to change your barricade placement and it's going to change just a lot of little nuance in the game. And I really like kind of the mix up in the thinking that you need to do to be effective with them or counter them.
Yeah, it sounds like both the teams, Mandrix and Nemesis Claw, give you different ways about thinking about stuff. I was listening to Command Point recap a tournament where one of the guys from Command Point, I think it was Shane, went and took Mandrix to a tournament in Canada, and I kind of listened to his play by play, and there's a lot of different ways that he had to think about stuff to play them. But it sounds like a really cool team, and I'm excited to see what both of these can do. And hopefully, this is a good indication of the future for where teams are going to be coming out.
Yeah, I very much feel that this season's teams are written in the language of next season. I think that they're all really good. Blades of Cain, Kit has been playing them recently down here, and she's just been killing with them. They're incredibly complex, but like just the way that the teams flow from this season are completely different than any of the previous season, and I'm really enjoying all of them. I think they're all super cool.
Yeah, I'm looking in to try out both of them. I last weekend was down at the coast again, and I actually got a game in with Sam from down that way, and he brought his Gellerpox, beautifully painted Gellerpox, off to get some pictures of those. And I brought the Felgo Ravagers, and so we had two giant melee teams just smacking into each other. I won by about 2 points, but it was pretty close game. I don't know what I'm doing with the Felgor and just kind of lived on their survivability, I think.
How was it playing them? Like, that's a big departure from what I normally see you play.
Yeah, it was interesting, and it was kind of fun because uh and Sam was very forgiving on my deployment because I was like, all right, well, we've got two melee teams. He can't shoot me and I can't shoot him, so I'm gonna deploy all and engage. But then I was like, wait, I've got a strat play on ambush where I want to be able to switch from conceal to engage to get some extra retains. And yeah, it was fun. It was hard to wrap my brain around it, and I did not utilize the teams in the best way, or the team in the best way that I could. But it was kind of neat to run up and just kind of run into the hulks and fight against them, or just go smack some bugs around. I really want to play a more traditional team, not like a melee horde team like the Gellerpox. I want to see how I do against somebody with some shooting too. But it was a super fun game, and we were at Obelisk Brewing again, where we were at last time, and it's a really nice environment. And drinking beer while you're playing Kill Team is just one of the fine joys in life. We also had afterwards, Sam hung around. We had another beverage. My girlfriend and her parents actually showed up. It was kind of like when I got there, they dropped me off with my backpack and my miniatures to go play, and then they went and hung out on the town. So I was hoping they would come back with like some Gatorade and orange slices at the end, like they were picking me up from the soccer practice or something, but they didn't. We had beer instead.
I mean, that's a reasonable substitute. Some say better even.
Yeah, it was a nice substitute because I remember when I was young and played soccer that like the after game beer just didn't hit like it does now, and that's the whole different story. But Sam was nice enough to hang out with us, and he gave us all the kind of local coast scuttlebutt too about all the tea that was going on down there. And I'm not going to share with it because I feel like that was privileged knowledge, but it was really nice. He was very. I basically like grabbed him like, hey, you want another beer? Okay, cool. Here's my girlfriend and her parents, and he hung out with us for a while and had another beer, and it was super nice. And it was May the 4th. He had on a Grogu bow tie, which was really cool too. And the Kentucky Derby was running at the same time too. And while horse racing is horrible, it was actually a really good race. So had a really nice time at the weekend, and even built on my team for my death match with Paige that we have coming up. And I'm not going to say what I'm working on because it's going to be a secret. But the kit that I was working on is possibly the worst kit that I've ever built, the worst mold lines ever.
Well, I'm just excited to hear you're working on some new kit bash, even if you're not really telling us what it is or anything like that. You jerk. I'm always excited to see what stuff people are working on. It's always exciting. And hopefully it's AdMech.
I built that kit before, and it's a pretty janky kit. I think the arms are really fun though, especially when you put them on something that's not them. It gives like a human sized model with those arms. Incredibly funny.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. And I think you can kind of guess there's only like one of four kits because it's the Demon Showdown. But I think I'm trying to decide if I want to use a different kit from AOS as these guys, or if I just want to build these for the Demon Showdown. Because I'm sure I'm going to build these, I'm going to paint them, and then I'm going to play them once, beat Paige horribly, and then put them on the shelf, just like and retire them forever. So I don't know if I want to put too much into it other than just to dominate Page.
Not go full out. I respect that more than if you just like only go partially out, because it is a hobby challenge as well. So you got to do it at least good enough to make him look. Damn, that's some sexy modeling right there.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to it. Although I think I'll give you a hint. The kit bash or the proxy that I would use would be the Sylvaneth box because I have their start collecting box. So I would proxy those as one of the demons.
Okay, that leads me in like two directions at least.
Well, that narrows it down. That's half the teams it could be. So besides our week in hobby, there's a big thing going on in the world, and I know very little about it. But Tyler, you're gonna inform us, and you're gonna key us in on the rap game beef that's going on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna break this down in Warhammer terms.
This is gonna be
So
great. Oh my god.
we're gonna place Kendrick Lamar as Perturabo. Okay, smartest guy around. Really into his word and stuff like that. And we're gonna frame Dorn as Drake. He's really popular. Really, kind of everyone likes him. No one really knows why. Kind of a dickhead, basically. So there was some beef. Let's say Perturabo and couple of his other fellow traitor Primarchs, they said some bad stuff about Dorn, and that Dorn responded. He launched his little like crusade back, and he kind of got him. He's like, "You're weak, anyways. I could take you. You can't even siege. Look at my walls." And then Perturabo hits back, and he sieges him. He sieges him hard. He does it twice in a row, back to back. And then Dorn kind of like responds. He tries to respond, but really, Perturabo had lured him into his iron cage, and he just closes the trap and kills basically all of the Iron Fist and ascends to demonhood.
So I'm still confused about. I don't know what's going on. It doesn't seem like anybody's any good in this.
I mean, yeah, that's basically they're all a bunch of assholes. But it was, if you're a big hip hop fan, it was an exciting weekend.
I'm not even much of a hip hop guy, but this has been a very fun week of just like cultural baloney that I get to experience with a lot of my friends and stuff. Like some of my friends are much more hip hop heads. And I think the most incredible thing, Chuck, is someone that you, like you said, you're not really following attention. Drake finally releases his second diss track, and like, it's like 8:30, or probably closer to like 7:30 our time Friday night. So like he's probably getting ready to go out and like party. Like, yeah, I released this track. I won this like recent battle. I won the evening. The weekend's gonna be all mine. Not even a full 30 minutes later, Kendrick Lamar drops his track, and it's like just an absolute banger. And it starts out with saying to Drake's kid, "I'm sorry that man is your father," and completely dominated the weekend in Kendrick's favor. And it's the first time, as far as I can tell, that's ever happened in like rap game beef. And it was incredible to witness because I got to come home and just go on Twitter, and the entire time I was talking about it. It was great.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, it was like some serial killer shit, for real. And then Kendrick drops like 2 hours later, too, like in the middle of the night. It was absolutely insane. Just crazy, crazy. Like, and then he's straight up, calling him out, like making accusations that we're not going to get into on this podcast. That's not where we're headed. But like, just wild to see two of the largest entertainers. And then Drake's house was shot up today also. So that's like a whole nother thing. So, we could see this isn't over. There may be some actual violence from this event, or like careers, seriously impacted.
Well, Tyler, you keep an eye on it for us, and then I look forward to updates for it next week because I still barely know what's going on.
That's okay, Chuck. We know you're old and you're still confused by the idea of wearing saggy jeans.
Son, I was in school when saggy jeans were a thing, and my parents wouldn't let me wear them.
Yeah, we remember the OG days of the Jinko jeans.
Crisscross, buddy, cross color.
Oh my gosh, crisscross. I remember them. I was in third grade, and I wanted to listen to their CD so bad. My mom wouldn't let me.
Yeah, I was in middle school, and my parents wouldn't let me have the cross colors clothing.
I'm so lost here. All I know, Zarin mentioned to me that apparently Flava Flav is coming out to play in Silverdale like sometime in the summer for our kind of like little town celebration holiday. So I'm gonna have to go and see that. And you know what? Maybe we'll do a ConnerCon weekend that time, so you guys can all come up. It's like a free concert, I guess. So relive the past or something.
And you know who Flavor Flav is now, right?
Yes, I do.
Because I feel like there was some confusion a few episodes ago about that. Now we are a week and a half away from the Colossal Cagematch, but Games Workshop happened to at the same time drop a tournament in Dallas, the Warhammer Open in Dallas, and they're going to have a preview show next week. And it's going to be Warhammer 40,000, Horus Heresy, Legions Imperialis, and Necromunda, also a bunch of AOS the day before. How do y'all feel that there's no Kill Team stuff? Are you worried? Or do you think this is the end of the season? Should I sell my models and start playing Necromunda?
I feel like last year around this time there was a gap in the Kill Team previews also. People are going, "Oh, dead game, no roadmap. We don't know what's coming." And then they dropped the roadmap, which they didn't follow at all.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. Sucks that there's no like new news or anything for it, but we just got a box, and they might be trying to avoid over previewing like they did with the first half of Nightmare, where people were starting to get like desperate, like where the hell is my Kill Team?
Yeah, we're waiting on termination still, and maybe this leads more credence to the 3-box season that we have that Tyler you've spoke about a few times.
Yeah, I was just going to say this is really feeling like a 3-box season. Termination just sounds like such a final name, Why would it be called Termination otherwise?
I'm hoping though that there's a bunch of cool rats and we can get some cool Kill Team kit bashes for all the new AOS stuff coming out.
Absolutely. Like anytime they expand the AOS range lately, it's like new kit bash fodder. Cities of Sigmar, you do basically any human team with them.
Yeah, that's what I did with a couple of my inquisitorial agents is used some of the I can't remember what they are, the Underworlds guys to make kit bashes for them.
Yeah, Sigmar stuff right now has been fantastic, and more than anything, I'm just excited for whatever the hell the Necromunda stuff ends up being. They did a very brief teaser for it when they showed off Termination, and the silhouettes for the models they had in it just looked incredible. So I'm very excited to see what that ends up being. Plus, that's very easy conversion for Kill Team stuff too.
I think it's rumored that they're getting Spire Hunters, which are like upper hivers, like rich kids coming down with all their fancy technology and stuff like that to hunt people.
You're gonna have to, Tyler. You're gonna have to get those and model them like you told us stories about the was it the rich kids from Chicago or something that were in the gangs? Tell me that again.
It was the 77s, and they were all punk kids, So they all pretended to be like dirty, crusty punks, but they were all trust fund kids.
Sounds like that's a good kit bash for that for you.
For sure. Nothing says crust punk like upper hiver.
And then one thing, actually, although Connor, didn't they give us a little AdMech preview for Horus Heresy? So maybe that's where your excitement's going to come from this next weekend.
Wait, was the Horus Heresy logo on that chart? I didn't look at it once. I didn't see Kill Team. I kind of just blanked out on it.
Yeah, it's 40K Horus Heresy, Legions Imperialis, and Necromunda.
Okay, that is very good to know. Yeah, I'm definitely holy shit, that's way more exciting now than that replaces Necromunda on my top list, because ideally that is some AdMech stuff. And there has been some speculation that it's just going to be new Plastic Knights, but if it's just Plastic Knights, they wouldn't really be showing off the AdMech symbol or the Mars, like, a picture of Mars. So hopefully Plastic AdMech. Please. All
right, we also did get an announcement this week and actually today that Games Workshop is going to be increasing prices in the near future. So thanks for that one, Biden.
Way to go, Joe.
Yeah, I'm sure he needs to talk to James Workshop and see about. I mean, cutting all this student debt. How about our Warhammer debt?
As someone that was just recently a student and still has a bit of student debt, yeah, I'd rather get cheaper Warhammer than like debt forgiveness or insurance or anything like that. That's not as exciting as new cheaper Warhammer, so he's got to fix that.
I was looking at my my student loans recently online, and I think I was one of the people that actually got the debt forgiveness because I applied like the day it went up and everything, and my stuff is gone.
Yeah, now it's coming right back out in plastic tax.
That is very exciting, though. If you did get some of that debt forgiveness, congrats, man. That's always a very useful thing to have happen, though.
No, it was pretty exciting. I was looking at my my credit score and stuff like that, and it was I was like, whoa, it's looking real good, and this is I'm not showing some of the stuff that I thought was there. So looks like it got applied, and I'm happy about that.
All jokes aside, that is awesome that you got some relief from that, because we're not going to turn this into a political podcast, but the higher learning system we have is a little bit predatory with the loans and stuff. But go watch Last Week Tonight if you want to find out about that.
We let the business people take over our schools.
Well, the problem is anytime you make something for profit, it's just going to get ruined. Capitalism maybe isn't the way.
Good thing there's never been like for-profit education or for-profit prisons or like for-profit, government work or anything like that, because otherwise that'd be, dangerous.
Well, back
On
to the
that
fun
happy note,
yeah, back to the fun stuff. Tyler, you talked a little bit about kit bashes and proxies so far, but I want to talk to you about how to really go about it the best way, because I think there's a few things that make a kit bash good and also make it legal and also make it fun to play against. So, what do you think? What makes a cool kit bash to start off with?
So I think a cool kit bash is one that embodies character. You're looking to kind of define who these models are. And Kill Team's a really great spot to do that because you have what, 6 to 20 models at most, 30, I guess if you're Inquisition on your roster. So you're painting maximum that so you can put a little bit more attention. Go through your bits pile, cut off some hands, swap them around, glue on some like extra little details, give them a story, um, stuff like that. Make them your own.
What about making it legal? So, I know we've seen some pretty cool kit bashes in our community, but what do you, as a TO, from your TO point of view, what do you want to see from a team to make it legal to play in a tournament and have on the table against an opponent?
Generally, I want to see a clear communication of what the model is. So war gear should be modeled accurately. Generally, you need something that's similar. So, like if your model has a power weapon by default, you need to model it with a power weapon. Having a chain weapon or just like a random, stick or something like that, it really, that doesn't work. Especially if there's multiple weapon profiles for your model. So, say like I was doing Hand of the Archon and I wanted to represent the whip. Having a sword or something that doesn't look like a whip on it isn't going to work for that.
So now I'll let you make a judgment on one of my guys that I did. So for Felgo Ravagers, I went with Rula Cool on the leader because he can take a plasma and a maul, I think it is, or he can take a chainsword and a bolt pistol. I went with the chainsword and the plasma because both of those are cooler than the other two options individually. If I have him rostered, if I have both versions of him rostered, would that be legal and distinct enough uh, as long as I'm very clear to my opponent what he's using, or do I need to make another leader or maybe snap off one of the arms to get in the right spot?
I definitely would encourage you to make it, maybe magnetize it so that it can have the correct loadout, making sure that the model isn't confusing. Because what if you accidentally make a mistake while you're playing? You go, oh, it has a chainsword because you look down at it when you really ran it with the plasma pistol and the bludgeon or whatever it is. It's kind of a bummer, but for ease of your opponent, I definitely think that that's preferable.
Connor, I know that you just run straight ad mech and nobody knows what those guns are anyways, but what about you? Have you ever come up against an opponent with proxies on some of the guys, or maybe kit bashes that were hard to decipher?
but thankfully, no. I've never had a ton of issues understanding proxying. Thankfully, not a ton of crazy ones, at least in my local area. So anytime someone does, as long as they're clear, I'm good at remembering type thing. I have seen some photos where I definitely agree that it needs to be clearer. Just like people will post on the community, or more so, I see it on Reddit where they'll be like, "Hey, is this a good conversion?" It's like it's not bad, but you wanted ideally, like Tyler said, the weapons is generally the most important thing. So a lot of AdMech kit bashes you'll see is like you need to have two clear, distinct types of like gunner type guys, because one is a plasma and one is an arc, and they're, despite being both scary guns, they need to be clearly represented so they know which gunner that is. Otherwise, I myself am going to have to make a new Hand of the Archon proxy because I didn't realize the Razor Wing profile for the Sky Splinter Assassin wasn't the actual like plane they're calling in, but rather the bird. So there was a guy in our community, Yazzie, who used a servo skull to represent his bird, and I'm going to shamelessly steal that idea because it was pretty good. Makes way more sense than why a like plain airstrike's only doing 1-2 damage.
Yeah, I definitely think that like just trying to like communicate what your model is and what it's doing is the most important thing. I think that there's sometimes you can get away with like maybe completely like excluding a weapon from a model. So like I have an intercessor leader and he's just pointing his fingers. You know, he has a pistol holstered on him and he has a chainsword. So that's, you know, my assault intercessor leader with a plasma pistol and a chainsword. I always go with. And I don't think I've ever had an issue with someone getting confused about what he's equipped with and stuff like that because that's what they're expecting the model to have because they're pretty familiar with the team.
That's not a bad idea either. If there's generally like one profile they're going to be taking 99% of the time, like if you're bringing an assault intercessor sergeant, most of the time they're running the chainsword and the plasma. It's okay in a situation like that where they're doing something that's a little bit different. Plus, like Tyler said, pointing, that's another clear indication. Most of the time when a squad has a guy that's pointing, it's either the leader or like a spotter. And since the intercession doesn't have a spotter, you can only really deduce, oh, that's the sergeant because he's got the tactical point.
Yeah, he's also like a little bit like more grandiose, you know. Since I play Dark Angels, he's in like the bone white armor, you know, he's like fancy loincloth, Horus Heresy head. Like he's looking real fancy. You can't mistake him for anything besides a leader.
I feel like this is a little bit of bias against Imperium weapons because since people know what a chainsword and know what a bolt rifle or bolt pistol is, you can't get away with it. But you run some weird robot toaster weapons and nobody knows what they are, you can just make them whatever you want.
It's definitely a little bit of that. That kind of can lead some advantage. It's just something like, Corsairs out of the single box. If you're using sometimes the splinter cannon or the blast rifle, whatever their like AP2 gun is, I don't know what the difference is appearance wise. But in that case, they only ever are going to run one gunner at a time on that team. Like legally, that's all they can run. So I think there's a little bit of leeway on that. Unfortunately, that's the price you pay for playing the Imperium is that people can tell your bits apart. But the bright side is, since you're playing Imperium, you have like twice, if not 4 times, as many bit sources for it. So you can often get some really cool stuff with them.
Yeah, having playing Imperium is just an excuse to dive deep into Necromunda or just like any of the kits out there for like the regular humans. You have Horus Heresy stuff now, like the Solar Auxilia. They can all be used for kit bashes. Like there's so many great bits out there for human stuff.
So now, super important question, Tyler, how do you store your spare bits?
So generally I keep them on sprue in a box because I have a million Kill Team boxes and then I have my boxes labeled. So it'll be like chaos demons, stuff like that. Because I think about the bits on the sprue. And as I clip them down, I try to use up one and then get rid of that and then move on to the next.
See, now I'm the opposite. I have a couple of those like tackle boxes, like fishing tackle boxes that I've clipped out all of the bits off the sprue. Like once I'm done building, I clip out everything and then I sort them. There's one box that's pretty much Space Marines, and then I've got another box that's kind of everything else. And I need to actually get a third box now because I'm filling up.
That's pretty similar to what I do. Ironically, as a kid, my mom got me like one of those like 64 shelf things because I was a big Lego guy and I did a lot of the Lego sets always come with extra pieces. And I got our label maker and printed them out with the official Lego title and everything like that, like studs one by one rounded, and I'd put all the pieces like that into it. Fortunately, I do not still have that same organization. I'm a much more freestyle person, but I have the tackle box with the little drawers in them, and I separate it by like arms, and then single arms. Like this arm is only used to hold a bolt pistol, and this arm is only holding a chain sword, and this arm's holding a grenade, and then like another one that's arms, but they have these two hands or two pieces of the arms going together, and then you got torsos and legs and stuff. I like that one a lot more just because I'm able to get to my bits faster than having them in the boxes. But it's kind of personal preference whether you want to kind of do Tyler's method, where you know exactly where that bit's going to be because it's still associated with that box, or if you want something a little bit more easier access, but you're going to have to kind of shuffle through that drawer or that box to find that specific bit when you're thinking of it.
Yeah, I have one of those little like 64 drawer organizers also for like when I get down to just a couple little bits and stuff like that. I'll clip stuff off and throw it in there. But it's usually like stuff like chainsword arms for Chaos Space Marines. Something you have 10 million of once you get done with a couple sets of it. And that's the stuff that I like usually like throw in there. It's like low priority things.
Yeah, it's worth if you spot a bit that you know, like, ooh, this is gonna be really good. I don't have a specific thing for it in mind yet, but like a unique helmet or a cool looking gun or like an awesome backpack. Having either a drawer dedicated for just cool bits or like little tiny plastic bags. Like I have one for all the really cool helmets, and my heads drawer that's just like a little tiny bag about the size of like, I don't know, a $50 coin. But I put all the cool helmets in there and then all the other just kind of random assorted ones in the drawer itself.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I think I know more about kit bashing and proxies and what we can and can't do. And it sounds like I need to make another goat or at least snap off some arms. I think I want to make a whole nother goat though, because just the plasmas, I don't want to snap off both arms. He's got a little OSL from the plasma, so I'm gonna have to do a whole new goat. With that, I also wanted some tips from y'all on starting a new team. So I played about 3 games of Felgor now, and I'm getting some bits and pieces of them, but I want to know how the two of you actually, when you decide that you want to start a whole new team, which Connor may do someday, but Tyler, you've played quite a few teams, and maybe Connor has some idea how to do it. What do you do? How do you start with a new team? Um, Sam, who I played at the Coast this last weekend, had a really good idea, which I might try, and I want to hear what you guys think about it too. He plays himself. He will throw 2 teams on the table and go through and just play against himself to kind of learn the rules for guys. And I think that's something I want to do, especially with Felgor, since they have so many different operatives that do so much different stuff. I want to maybe throw out Felgor versus Intercession and play against myself so I can see what gimmicks and tactics they use. But what do you guys do for learning a new team?
So this is gonna sound like really kind of new agey and stuff, but I like meditate on it. I start like I put it in my mind, thinking about the team and like, you know, generally the profiles that what the profiles are for the team. And so it's like kind of thinking about where in the game are you going to use it. I just kind of let it mull over in my mind slowly in between games. You pick up the book, like I try to leave the book out where I can get to it so that I can reference it in case like something pops into my head, or like I'll have the Wahapedia page pulled up on my phone, stuff like that. And I just kind of like let it absorb slowly. And then once I kind of like feel I'm ready to switch to that team, I'll build the team, come up with the concept for the kit bash and stuff like that, and then start getting reps in.
So I need to meditate on the team. That's I did not expect that as an idea about how to do it, but it does make sense to think about the team and have the book around, have Wahapedia up, and that's kind of I did that a little bit with the Felgor because I knew I was taking them down to the coast to play against Sam. Connor, what about you? What if you say you had to learn a new team because Admech fortunately got taken out of the game? How would you what would your method be to learn that team and get them on the board? Part of the reason I ask this too is that I really worry about the first time I bring out a new team. I don't want to be a bad opponent for someone. I don't want to not know my rules enough or not be able to play a speedy game with them. And that's part of the reason that I haven't. It took me so long to switch teams, and I'm really trying to find a better way to do it so I can play more teams because I have a lot of teams ready to go and a lot of teams I'd like to try.
So first thing first, if Admech did get removed, I'd go through the 5 stages of grief. Probably have to go on like a road trip style movie where I have to learn something about myself before I can even move on with my life. But as for playing other teams, something I do actually do somewhat regularly, mostly of the time though, just through TTS because it's way faster than getting my teams all painted up. I'll generally, like I said, kind of look over the rules. I am very good at just browsing Wahapedia and then trying to like figure out the combos a little bit because I've mentioned before, each operative on a team kind of fills a role of like better shooter guy, front of the face, like tank guy, melee scary guy, utility piece guy, stuff like that. That you can kind of start to recognize those trends. Otherwise, one of the most useful things is besides like finding battle reports on YouTube, Mountainside Tabletop. They play a lot of teams on that channel, and while they don't always, play them at the best level, at least can get you familiar with the idea because they put all the strategy and tactical ploys up on when they use them, so that's useful. But otherwise, our good friends over at Command Point, their Discord's extremely useful. Each faction has its own like individual chats. You can go in and ask for people on advice and stuff. I've done that plenty of times, and it's always been super useful. And otherwise, just kind of be aware that the first game you're going to be a little bit slower playing them, but just try and like get into the pattern of how you want to play that team. And then so by this time you roll around to your second game, you're already like 30% faster or something with them.
I think it's important to like set an intention also when you're playing your games with them and your opponent. If you're coming into a place being like, "Hey, I'm trying to learn this team. I'm thinking about switching over to them. So we're going to be going a little bit slower. I need like a little bit of a time to practice and set up with them and kind of really think things out." And approaching it like that, approaching it like a training session, especially if your opponent is aware coming into it that that's how you're going to approach it, can be really helpful.
Yeah, fully agree with Tyler. Just try to make sure that if you're playing a new team, your opponent's aware so they can maybe, if you want to get really crazy, you both try a new team and just accept the fact there's going to be some mistakes. But it's kind of fun when you're each playing a new team and just be like, wow, I didn't realize that interaction would happen that way. Otherwise, maybe set a little bit more time along, like an additional 30 minutes for that game, so you don't overbook yourself for something just because you're going to have to be consulting the book or Waha more often.
And what do you guys think about the idea of playing with yourself, just putting the models on the table and playing against yourself? Have you guys ever thought about that one?
I used to do that a lot, actually. I think it's a really good way to learn. As long as you're willing to commit to fully playing at your best level for, both teams, then you're not going to cheapen the experience or kind of lean towards another way. It can be really, really beneficial.
I think one thing that I did with Blades of Cain was I also threw them out there, not being afraid to get absolutely murdered with them and not worrying about losing guys. And I think that helped me play them, but also to learn them because I wasn't worried about playing badly. So we've got learn the rules, good one. Meditation, playing with yourself, and TTS. I don't like TTS though, so I'm gonna play with myself and meditate on it.
Yeah, I don't like TTS either. It's good, good for people who do, but it's something. There's something different about playing at the table with someone else.
Connor's dad has walked me through TTS on multiple occasions, and I still don't know how to do it.
It's not bad, but it's definitely a different skill, and I fully agree. It's far more fun moving the guys around on the table, but it allows me to at least like try out the teams more often, which is kind of fun to do. Or ideally, play against the new teams faster and figure out how I can beat them with my ad mech.
Let's talk also about another piece of Kill Team. And Tyler, this is something that I know you want to talk about, so I'll let you get going on it. But let's talk about momentum and how it plays into Kill Team. So when you brought this topic up originally, I was kind of curious about what you meant by momentum. So can you talk us through it a little bit?
Yeah, I watch a lot of people play a lot of games. I've coached a lot of people, and I noticed that there's often times where if you have in your mind that you're going to lose, or you feel like your opponent has too much momentum in the moment, you can really psych yourself out. Morale is a huge thing in the game and how you play, and making sure that you maintain momentum and you maintain forward progress as you play is really so important to playing in a kind of a high level with this game, in my opinion.
So if you get yourself, say, in a head state where you've lost some momentum and you feel like you're going to lose, do you have any tips or tricks to snap yourself out of it or things to focus on to bring you back to it?
I think that focusing on first the game state, take a solid assessment of where you're at in the game and what you need to do to score the maximum amount of points from here on out. it's not always about making sure that you win or like you score the most points. Sometimes it's about denying your opponent points, stuff like that. There are multiple paths to victory, and some of them can be not what you originally intended to do because you have to adapt. Maybe you got diced on a really important roll, something like that. Your opponent got really lucky with their rolls, etc.
Connor, have you seen situations in your games where you maybe started to get yourself behind in the game and were able to make a play or change your mindset to turn that momentum around to help you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Momentum is something I'm very familiar with just throughout all the games I've played. Years of playing League, unfortunately, with the psychic damage it's done to me has meant that my mental state is pretty solid, at least for this, because I only have myself to blame if stuff goes wrong. But as for like the idea of combos, that's something Hunter, or not really combos, but like gaining momentum. That's something Hunter Clade have in spades. A double activation is always extremely useful, and if you can have that be like my Rust Stalker and a leader to go kill two pieces on the enemy team, that's going to give you a huge advantage of just like I killed two of your guys before you've got to gone. You're like you're feeling bad type of thing, and as much as I want to be a friendly opponent, I also want to gain momentum by killing you or scoring objectives and making you feel like you've lost already. So you're not as willing to make aggressive plays, which, in my opinion, is the best way to win the game, is being aggressive, at least, of course, depending on the team you're playing. So the concept of momentum, to me, at least in Kill Team, a lot of what that represents is like both the first action of a turn as well as in the last action of a turn. Like if I can go and kill someone on the last action of the turn before we go into the next one, that's going to kind of give me the momentum because I'm feeling up on the fact that, all right, nice. I took out an enemy's piece and maybe scored like an objective doing so or a secondary doing so, or have secured that flank now because they're like down to only two guys left on that side. And so it's a lot about trying to see, like kind of Tyler mentioned, sometimes just denying your opponent points. If you know, hey, this model is going to die no matter what I do, accept that fact, and like a model on your team is going to die no matter what you do because the nature of the game sometimes happens that way. Look about what you can do instead on a different side of the map where you can gain an advantage right then and there, or if you can just kill their executioner, or sometimes even as weird as it is, like pulling your target that's been marked for eliminate guards all the way back, even if it means you're not scoring a point, because denying your opponent that will make them feel kind of weird because it's not a move you'll see that often.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times it's about like if you get hit. So say you lose initiative, turning point two, and you want it, because everyone wants initiative, turning point two. It's probably the most important single activation in the game. You want to be able to control the battlefield, but if you're not able to, sometimes making the next best play, making sure that you're taking out someone that hasn't activated, not focusing on the operatives or that just went and killed one of your guys or took a point or something. You want to be proactive and make sure that you are taking the correct actions to prevent them from pulling ahead further and stuff like that.
I really want to double down again, fully agree on that. But what Tyler said about the next best play, when it's your activation, don't always be looking for what is my best play right now. Look at it for the idea of what is the best play for this game overall. Like maybe it's doing something like I'm not going to loot right away because I'd rather charge, fight, and kill a guy that's going to deny him a loot, or deny my opponent a loot on their like back objective and force them to send someone over to even clear that objective. And then later on in the turn, you can loot that original objective that you had in the first half of the game that you controlled right away, but decided I'm going to charge off of it instead. Stuff like that is really useful. Anytime you can put pressure on your opponent to make a decision is way better than anything else in the game. Furthermore, with the idea of like initiative and turns, it's harder to do a little bit on elite teams just due to the nature of the operatives they have. But on any team with like 8 models or more, try and always be setting up for I have 2 activations I can make that will give me a point or kill an opponent's model. So that way, if you lose initiative and they kill one of those models, you still have a second person that can go and activate and do significant work for you. That kind of puts the momentum back in your favor of even losing it to the initiative role because it's just useful. Making sure that you have multiple setups is always a key thing you should try and be doing. It's a harder skill to learn. I'm not going to deny that, But once you start to get that pattern down, you feel so much stronger and better at the game.
I think one thing and that's important and maybe not directly momentum related, but I think it does have something to do with it is taking out or focusing on people that haven't activated because sometimes I know a lot of the times I'll have someone who will jump on a point and kill one of my guys or something and they're done activating so they can't hurt me until potentially Overwatch or even for the rest of the turn. So I really try and not focus on that person and focus on who is going to hurt me later in that turn. But I wonder if a lot of players also get focused on that like, oh, okay, well, now I can shoot this guy because he's not in combat or he's vulnerable rather than looking at people that can still hurt them and focusing on them first.
I definitely see what you're talking about, where people will shoot the person that's already gone. I see that a ton, especially from new players, and that's totally fair because it's the idea of like I want to kill your models. But if you're hoping to win, killing isn't the only thing that matters. As much as I do love killing enemy models, ideally try and, like you said, take out someone that has yet to go because that's that APL gain for you. That's always going to be useful. Unless, of course, it's like the model that moved out into the open was like a plasma gunner. Then obviously, yeah, go ahead and kill him or wait a little bit and then go ahead and kill them because that's key pieces you want to remove. But otherwise, it's better to remove someone that has yet to go most of the time.
Yeah, it's all about like action economy is everything in this game. And every time you remove one of your enemy's models, you're removing some of their action economy. Removing a key model, like say it's the leader for Hunter Clade, you're going to deny the GA2. Removing the Omnispecs is going to remove the no obscuring. Stuff like that can be really powerful, especially if they've already activated their plasma or they've already used their leader ability, or they've maybe they activated someone else before they use their leader ability, and you're able to deny that GA2 for that turn.
Very good points. Yeah. If you can do something that will like deny other good targets beyond people that can do double activation, comms people. If you can take out their comms person like turn two, that is such a huge swing for you because a lot of the two APL teams need the comms guy to be doing a lot of their craziest maneuvers, where like charge fight shoot or popcorn shooting with a gunner or charge fight loot, stuff like that. Anytime you can take out a comms person, very key operative to focus. Momentum that you can gain in the very start of the game. I'll look for ways if you're a team like Hunterclade, Wormblade, Eldar, definitely, because any of the elves really, because so many of them are super mobile. Ways you can score 4-2 on the first turn, especially if you can set it up where you're going to score 4-2 even if you don't have initiative. That is so powerful because 4-2 is already like a 2-point victory swing your way. And if you're able to say get 4-2 on a turn you didn't win initiative, so then turn 2 you can roll off and break the tie, most of the time you can score 4-2 in primary a second turn in a row. That pretty much just guarantees you the victory right there. Your opponent's going to be feeling bad, especially if it's a mode like loot where you 4-2 twice in a row, and you kind of win. That's a 4 VP swing that it's very difficult to make that up. So always be looking for ways to be setting up the board like that when you come up to the board it's the first time and just start looking at deployment zones.
So let's take some questions from Ask Vox Cascadia. And we mentioned it a few times in the last segment, but initiative. So Zach had a question. You have to change initiative. How would you change initiative? So currently on turn one, it's based on your scouting step, but then it's a roll off from then on. What would you guys do to change that?
So personally, I think you still have to have some level of randomness. I would really, really be upset, or not really upset, but I would not be a fan of ever doing the alternating activation where you know what's happening in advance, because I think that would just be very unhealthy for the game due to the amount of like plays you can set up knowing I'm going to be able to do this before they react in the next turn. But what I've seen an idea thrown around a lot that I like is like a mini scouting step where I really like the, rock, paper, scissors. That's a fun thing. And it could still work if you each take the same one due to, basing who had initiative first. All right. The other player has the tiebreaker advantage for the next turning point. Any sort of kind of rock, paper, scissorsy thing like that's always pretty cool. Some of the ideas I've heard or like maybe come up with myself, I don't really know. They've all probably been tossed around once or twice, but like, if we were doing a mini scouting step, I would love to see like the three options be something like a free Overwatch or Overwatch and melee combat, like a free fight action. A second one would be automatically just swapping a person's order. And most of the time, that's probably going to be swapping them to conceal, but that's fine. That's kind of like a baby version of infiltrate. And then the third one for me would be you get to make a free mission action that turn with any of your operative. You just have to, say it when you start their activation. I think you could kind of do that like 1, 2, 3 beats, three beats one, one beats two, two beats three type of deal. It'd be a fun way of kind of having more mind games in the initiative. I know that was a lot, so my bad, but I think that would be kind of
Yeah, I like that. I think that the scouting phase is a unique part of Kill Team that isn't replicated throughout the game. Then we just go to straight dice rolls afterwards. So I like the idea of the mini scouting going forward, because it then makes you also like, what do you how valuable is what you think you're going to do versus what they're going to do, rather than just a random dice roll.
yeah. It's a more fun of that like do they know that I know that they know that I know that they type of thing, like mind games going on. Plus, it's a simple enough change that like could be like say they introduce that with like next edition kill team, but they still keep most of the kill teams in the game. All those ploys that like caster can have to reroll initiative and like the Star Striders have it as well, where like one of their rogue trader abilities is reroll initiative. Just make it that like once per turn or once per game they can use 2 scouting steps or like choose an additional one, stuff like that. It introduces a new level of ways you can make unique like abilities and operatives for teams and stuff like that.
Tyler, what about you? You solid on initiative, or well, how would you
You,
change it?
I really like that idea. It's probably the best one I've heard. I think that right now it's probably pretty solid. Getting or losing initiative, 2 times in a row, 3 times in a row feels bad. Maybe having a slight modifier for each time after the second turning point. So, if you lost it to first 2 rounds and you're going into third round, you have a +1 to your dice roll, something like that. That may be nice, but other than that, I think that the mini scouting step is definitely the coolest. I think it would gamify, the whole thing a little bit more and add a bit of extra character to the game, which I'm always for.
Yeah, thank you. Glad you both kind of like that idea. Like I said, I'm not the first to come up with it, but it's one of the ideas I've seen thrown around a lot, and I think it's just the most exciting. Otherwise, simple, not really like exciting, but it would work well enough. Probably just making the dice roll instead of a D6 it's a D3. You have more chances for ties, and that, in theory, helps players not losing initiative twice in a row, or rather 3 times in a row.
Yeah, I think some sort of modifier, because it just feels bad to lose initiative every round. Even if you, I think one nice thing about Kill Team is that if you tie in the dice roll, it goes to the person that didn't have initiative previously. But I think, you can get a little modifier if you haven't had it for, say, the last 2 rounds. All right. And then a question for Tyler and Chuck from Definitely Not Connor. How do you stay motivated to paint? What's your Zen state like that you do to stay focused?
When I have to paint, it's like usually like deadlines. Like I need to get a team ready for an event, you know, stuff like that, or I need to paint terrain. These days, I don't have a whole lot of free hobby time to devote to my own pursuits, or at least I haven't in the last year. It's a lot of I got to get stuff done so that we can have enough terrain for an event.
I think part of it is I do a little bit of the hobby every day, and whether that is building or organizing my space or making myself just sit down at the paint desk and start putting paint on something. And that's usually where it comes from, is wanting to get a team out, wanting to make some progress on my shame golf, or just wanting to get a team finished too. That's when I generally sit down and get myself motivated to paint. And I find that once I just pick up the brush and start putting a little bit of paint on, then I do like a color, and then I'm like, okay, well, I've got that done, so I want to do another color. And then that's just kind of we talked about momentum earlier, but that's the momentum, and it makes me want to get the models knocked out. So I think just sitting down, putting some paint on is a great start, whether it's just base coating something, or adding one extra color to the model, and then seeing that you're okay. Well, I got the black painted on these Space Marines. Well, now I want to do some silver on the guns, and oh, well, I've got the silver on the guns. Well, now I want to do the gold on the Aquila, and I think that's what keeps me focused is seeing that progress, and also like getting past the ugly stage of painting miniatures. And anybody who doesn't know, the ugly stage of painting miniatures is you sit down, you prime it, and you start to put paint on, and you're just putting base layers on, and it kind of looks crappy and it doesn't look great because there's maybe no contrast. And then you add a wash or something to it, or start to put highlights on, and then you start to really see the model come out. Getting past that ugly phase is super important for me too.
I definitely thank you, whoever definitely not Connor is. Very great question, because I've been having some painting troubles myself. I was pretty good at the start of the year when I started my little like try and get a model done for every day in the month there is. But that was probably too much. I blew through that and kind of killed my painting motivation for a while. I agree with the ugly stage as well. That's what I've been experiencing a lot of, because I have a ton of primed models that I'm slowly making progress on, but they just don't look good. And I think that's another issue, is like I just kind of got to work through that. Um, but the other issue is I might be doing too large of batch paints. Like Chuck, when you're working on a model, are you doing like you said, kind of doing all the colors? Are you doing that only for a single model? Are you working on like three? Does it kind of depend on whatever type of models you're painting, or what's that look like for you?
So it really depends on the models that I'm painting. If it's a like a sergeant, or more like a captain or a character, I'll just focus on that one model. But if it's a squad, especially if it's a squad that has a lot of the same colors, I'll generally go through and paint maybe 5 to 7. I've done up to like 10 at a time when I was doing my, actually I think I did 18 at once when I was doing my blooded. But I'll have like 5 models. I think 5 is a good number when you're painting like a squad. So that's what I did with my Howling Banshees. Is I had all my Howling Banshees. Once I found the scheme for one of them, I then took the next 5 or next 4, excuse me, and painted each color on them, and I'd go from color to color to color. So I think if you do too big of batches, that's an issue, because you're stuck painting black for on 18 different models or 10 different models or whatever, and it just gets super tedious painting the same color. I think switching back and forth to between colors is good. Plus, you're also not seeing the progress as quickly, which I think can keep you from wanting to keep going. What kind of batches are you painting, Connor?
Right now I'm just kind of doing 5 Marines. I'm all doing the red on them, which is most of the like main color on them. But before that, it was definitely like groups of 10 where I'm doing like all the blue robes on my Scutari. Okay, now let's do all the orange like cloth and pant legs and stuff, and then all the silver. And that wasn't too bad, but I think it was just like too much, like you said, maybe of one color at a time, and I should have probably been doing it like half of the squad, because about model 3 or 4 I'm like, this is taking too long, and I'd get distracted watching a YouTube video, and then end up delaying the process of getting done through that color.
Sometimes, especially if you're painting like an army painting can be very tedious for big Warhammer. I know I almost lost my mind when I painted all of my Necrons, because I painted like 2 Indominus boxes worth of Necrons back to back, and doing all like 40 warriors in a batch. That was, I do them in like batches of 10. I felt like I was going to die at the end of that.
Yeah, I think being careful with how big of batches you do. It's really cool to think about having getting an entire roster of a kill team painted, but it can be quite the slog. Having models that have a lot of variation to them helps a lot too. Like when I did Felgar Ravagers, one of the best kits to paint out there, was nice because every guy was individual. Same thing with my blooded. While they all fit together, they were all pretty individual. And same thing with like my agents of the Imperium.
The ability to add little details and kind of like pick out little stuff to add that variation and differences while you're painting, and try to figure out like different spots that you can use the same color across model, limit your palette and keep it flowing through everything, so there's that cohesiveness, and maybe have it show up in different spots that you wouldn't expect, that extra little bit you added, stuff like that.
Well, I think one thing that's super helpful too is an airbrush, and I know it's a hobby in itself, but especially if you're batch painting like units that are all the same. I know that when I paint my Blood Angels, I have a scheme for them where I'm getting the majority of their armor done before I even put a single brush stroke on them through the airbrush, and I will even take two. What I'll do is if I know I'm painting something like when I painted my dwarves. I painted probably 5 different test models just to get the armor because I knew the armor was going to be the biggest part of it. Did the same thing with my Blades of Cain for my scorpions. I painted multiple test models and I used just basically marines that have armor to figure out what I wanted to do with the airbrush to help reduce a bunch of that time. So airbrushing helps a lot.
Yeah, if you are in this hobby for $500 worth of stuff, $1,000 worth of models, you need to go spend $120 on like an eBay airbrush setup. It's one of the best things you will ever buy for your hobby. It'll speed everything up. It's a really good skill to have. Go get yourself an airbrush. Like if you don't have one and you're this far in, go do it. Do yourself a favor.
Especially if you're painting stuff like power armor or something with a single dominant color, it makes a huge difference to be able to knock out like an entire section of color and not have to brush paint it.
I guess I'm gonna have to get an airbrush at some point. I'll just have to figure out how to like safely do it inside an apartment. But thank you guys. The main thing doing is when you're painting, what are you doing like beyond painting? Do you have like stuff playing in the background? Is it music? Is it YouTube videos? What do you guys like kind of do? Because I've been experimenting with stuff myself, trying to figure out like what works the best for keeping me on focus and not like getting distracted watching stuff.
I'm definitely like listening to an audiobook or some music with it. If I have something on a screen, I definitely get distracted.
I will generally I have a TV that's kind of up in the corner, so it's not right in front of me, so I'm not directly watching it, but I'll generally have like some sports on if there's something or just random YouTube videos or maybe like a lore video. If I've had a couple beverages, I'll usually turn on some music, but I haven't done audiobooks yet. I think I would get too distracted by my painting and not be able to focus enough. I do want to try it though because I'm working on Soul Hunters right now and I need to really put some serious time into that because my 15-minute walk with my dog every day is not putting a dent in the book like I want to.
It's a chunky boy for sure. There's a lot to get through in that book. I've just been re-listening to it myself. I forgot how good it was. Well, I didn't forget how good it was, but you forget the little details.
Yeah, a lot of YouTube for me. A lot of I watch so much YouTube that I actually pay for premium. It's one of the ones that one of the services that I would not get rid of. So lots of YouTube videos.
But you don't have Spotify, but you have YouTube Premium.
Yeah, and I can listen to YouTube music on there too. So I basically got Spotify. And actually I guess YouTube Music actually has one of the better selections of music, better than Spotify from what I've even heard.
The music selection's pretty good. The bit rate's the big thing for me.
I mean, I don't know anything about anything as far as music and bitrate and stuff goes, so it doesn't make a difference to me. All right, so we have a question from Zach, and again, Zach is asking, "What weapon do we need to see in Kill Team? Multi-Melta, some kind of Devastator thing from Necrons? What big, totally not compensating gun are we missing in Kill Team?
We're missing the shock attack gun for orcs.
What is that gun, Tyler?"
So it is a wonderful little gun, and basically it is a teleporter that teleports a grot into the target. And it has a long history. You used to have to like roll on a table to see like the effect of it. So like sometimes the grot would appear inside of the target and it would claw its way out. Sometimes it would just hit it really hard and explode on impact, doing some damage. Sometimes it would fall impotently at its feet. Just all kinds of fun stuff. Sometimes it would shoot the user instead of the grot.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty cool one. Would it be you actually have the grots on your roster and they have to be standing next to you and you have to feed it into the cannon, or how does it work?
No, I think it'd be like, the guy would have like a pack of grots on his back, hypothetically. And then you'd roll on a table. I'm trying to find one of the old shock attack guns. So like it was 2d6 that it would roll, and it would like on Snake Eyes you'd get it would do like d6 damage and like blow up around it, like just all kinds of like fun stuff. So I think that would be really cool. See like the randomness and the orkiness of something like that come through on the tabletop.
That is a very orc sounding gun. That sounds super fun. I love the idea for like maybe if there was that rumor a while ago about like the beast the Beast Rider orcs. That seems like that could be a really cool like Beast Rider orc weapon.
Beast
Beast
snaggers.
Snaggers, that's the one, yeah. Otherwise, personally, beyond just saying give AdMech Phosphor Blast Carbines, they already exist. Just let me have them in Kill Team. Um, Ideally, I would love to see like lightning weapons more, kind of like they exist in through like arc rifles and some of the Necron stuff. And I think that like one of the Eldari weapons is like that. But I want a lightning weapon where it can actually zap between targets you're firing at, kind of like Torrent, but like good Torrent almost, or like blast, but it can blast with splash or something where it can just chain lightning people. I just want to be able to become the Emperor from Star Wars.
I think multi meltas would be cool. I like the melta weapons we have, but I would really like to see the. I wish we had a traditional sisters team that had the what was it the bolter, the melta, and the flamer. They're three holy weapons.
Yes, that's the three. Though ironically enough, while I've thought about like, oh, Compendium Sisters, there is not actually a easy way to get a multi-melta team if we or on the basic Sisters team, unless we get an upgrade sprue. Fingers crossed. Just due to the nature of the multi-melta doesn't actually come in the base Sisters kit. It has to come through the Retributor one, which I found out the hard way when I went to buy one and look for the multi-melta, and then was thoroughly disappointed when it doesn't come with one.
Don't we have a multi-melta on Inquisition?
They
Yeah,
no
the android does.
no
He
he's
has a
got a.
multi-melta.
Is it a multi melta?
Yeah,
I
it's a
think.
multi-melta. It's like a full range
Oh,
melta.
he does have a multi melta, doesn't he? Huh. I guess we do
So
have one, but nobody takes
yeah.
it
He
though.
he does, but
I
yeah,
mean,
it's overshadowed by the blast plasma gun, I think.
what do you want to see, Chuck? Because we already have the multi-melta. Come on, something else.
Trying to find a picture of this multi melta now so I can confirm it. Trying to see. Yeah, no, yeah, multi melta.
Yeah, I found it on Wahoo.
Um, well, I talked last week. Canoptic Doomstalker, the 10 foot tall, or actually like probably like what 30 feet tall Necron. I think that would be good. Let's see, what would be a good.
There's that gun that the Lion had at one point that erases people from history. That'd be cool. Like, you make all criticals with that, and they have to destroy the model, and they can't ever play with it again.
I like. What about the Neo Volkite weapons? I think those are super cool.
I would love Neo Volkite. That stuff, Volkite's so cool. It's such a fun idea. I wish it was better represented in Kill Team. But Tyler, you just talked about the Lion's Cool gun. What's that like old school bolter that was for one of the Dark Angels characters? That was like a bullpup bolter. That when you look at the drawing of it, there's just no way that gun could exist. Do you know what I'm talking about by any chance?
Yeah, it's Azrael's bolter, the Lion's vengeance or something like that. And yeah, it doesn't really make any sense on how it looked, but it was kind of cool. I just wish they would have kept the bullpup design when they updated it, but made it make sense.
Yeah, as a longtime Halo fan, bullpup weapons are pretty cool looking. But yeah, I just googled this, Chuck. I don't know if you've ever seen this. I'll post it in the chat. But it's quite the old school 40K designs of just pure stupidity.
I mean, the new one still looks pretty cool too. It's got the bolter magazine hanging off the side of it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not quite as good. It's like if they just like brought up that back part, just make that whole back part full on it, it would be great.
Yeah, it wouldn't look too bad because it would be a functional, bolter slash combi bolter weapon. Oh, that's actually an answer. More combi weapons. They only really exist right now, I think, in like Compendium Sisters. I don't think Inquisition have any combi, and I'm blanking on any other team that has it at the moment. But it's really in the Compendium weapons.
Death Watch has them.
True, but they're locked to Compendium as well. So like a bespoke team with combi weapons would be sick.
I would like more. Some of the multi meltals or the melta rifles, like the Eradicators on the Space Marines. I think you can bring those in. Need more weapons that just delete people.
I think once we start getting into like eradicators and stuff like that, that gets super crazy, because like those are full on anti tank, like delete a tank kind of weapon.
Yeah, let's get crazy.
That's true. It would serve its purpose for deleting a Marine, that's for sure. Probably a little overkill, but there's already plasma guns. Why not super plasma?
Yeah, When they brought the plasma blast weapon with the Inquisition kill team, that was a lot. I think we need more crazy weapons like that.
I think the craziest is still probably that like AP2 Farstalker Kinban Flamer. That thing is nuts. It's so fun though.
Yeah, if you can actually get that on somebody, it's crazy, but that it's on the Farstalker Kinban, so there's not much hope for it. Sorry, Nick. All right, and a question for Tyler, Chuck, and Connor from Definitely Not Adelaide. Adelaide's asking for advice for playing Kill Team in different local metas. So I think the Northwest kind of has a meta where we never heard of Pathfinders. Nobody plays Pathfinders here. How would you find out about the local meta, and then would you tailor your play style to it, or tailor the team you brought to it?
So I've played in a couple, like LVO twice, traveled up to Washington for a few events, which they definitely have a different meta than we have down in Oregon. And I think you just show up and you just play. You play your best and you try to be friendly and make a couple friends and just talk to people about like what they're seeing in their stuff. And it's one of those things you'll learn as you go.
It does seem like we have a really niche meta here. I feel like last year we had a very elite heavy meta here in the Northwest, especially in the Portland area. We didn't see many orcs or pathfinders, and I don't even think we really had many Colts teams around here.
Yeah, completely agree. I think our meta's always been a little different up here. I see, a lot of elves recently. Navy Breachers just made a big show, it's definitely different out here.
Yeah, I can fully agree. Elves. If I had to say, like beyond Marines, but imagine most places saw a ton of Marines, maybe just not to the level of success we were seeing them up in the Pacific Northwest. I would say elves. Nearly every time I go to any kill team day, there's at least Corsairs. Now it's a lot more broad in what type of elves being played, at least at one table. And you go to any of our events, I'm willing to bet like half of the tables have some form of Corsairs, Hand of the Archon, at least on one side of that table.
Yeah, we don't see I feel like Northwest just kind of does its own thing because, like I said, we didn't see orcs. We haven't seen like high level vet guard play around here or like high level pathfinders either, even when they were super good. And sounds like they're coming back though too.
I do know Sean up in Bellingham runs Pathfinders. He's a big fan of them, and he's putting on a tear with them at our local, like when he comes down to Tacoma events. Otherwise, beyond that, for the actual question of like how do you adjust to a meta, first thing first, you got to get some games in there, see what people are playing. I'd say what affects it the most is probably the terrain. Terrain's going to obviously heavily impact what teams are good and what equipment people are bringing. But I wouldn't necessarily try and swap teams because of that. I would just try and see what you can do with your current team. Maybe try changing up operative selection or like equipment selection, but see what you're able to accomplish with whatever team you're playing. Adelaide, I know you swap through a lot of teams, so I know that at least one of the ones you have will probably serve your general well being at a new local area.
And one last quick question. Zach said GW just released a game where you can only field 2 to 6 vehicles from the 40K model line. It sees Baneblades square off against half a dozen war wagons. It's a vehicle counterpart to Kill Team. What is it named?
I'm gonna have to come up with a name because that sounds super fun. But I would love for that to exist. I would have so much fun with that.
Can you repeat it one more time? I spaced out for a second.
Yeah, GW just released a game where you can only field 2 to 6 vehicles from the 40K model line. It sees Baneblades square off against half a dozen war wagons. It is a vehicle counterpart to Kill Team. What is it named?
It's called Gorka Morka. They already have that game.
That's what I was thinking too. I was trying to think. I don't know what Gorka Morka is, but just all I can see is the box art, and sounds about right.
I think they'd lean into the full like '90s Warhammer with that big bold like gold yellow text and just go full out like retro art on the cover for it and everything.
No, I mean, like, this was literally a game called Gorka Morka in the 90s. It was exactly this. It was vehicular combat on a planet called Gorka Morka. It was overrun by orcs for the most part. It's like ramshackle vehicles and stuff like that. One of the more interesting factions in it were the Diganobs, which were humans who painted themselves green and worshipped orcs and thought that they were orcs.
Oh, I think I've seen like a lore video about those humans at some point or something. That's cool. I didn't realize they came from like an actual game. I thought they were just kind of like a mention in a codex or something.
Ash Wastes for Necromunda, which Connor talked me into buying the box for, and we're apparently going to play sometime.
Woo!
That added vehicles to Necromunda. Would you guys like to see like a double-sized kill team, or maybe like I think it's about double size of kill team board, and add a vehicle or two?
Nah, that's okay. I like Kill Team for the tight skirmish, uh, kind of semi-competitive play that it offers. If I want to expand into vehicles and more narrative play and like grander than that, I'll look for a different game system personally.
I think it would be kind of fun to try for like narrative missions or just kind of like one off like for fun stuff with your friends. But the few times I've tried to translate that myself, the number of health that a vehicle would have would get so crazy. Because I think like the lowest health vehicle I can think of is a Sentinel, which has like 6 wounds. And going off the like rough, like how much wounds translate from 40k to like kill team, that meaning the Sentinel has something of like 30 plus wounds, and all the AP in the world's not going to be killing that thing anytime soon. But it would be kind of neat. I like the idea of like maybe like an ATV or something, just for like a double side map, and maybe like a capture the flag game of like old school like Blood Gulch or capture the flag on CS:GO type maps.
And Connor, you said you've been reading the Ash Wastes rules. How do the vehicles translate into that?
It's very Necromunda's rules are very similar to 40k, where it's like strength and toughness and values and everything like that. So the vehicles translate pretty similar to what they do in 40k, where their like toughness is pretty high for the actual like vehicles. For the ones where it's like just a person on an ATV, it's still like toughness 3, which is what a base human has. But it's got much faster movement speed, so it's a lot harder to hit because Necromunda's like shooting mechanic is just far different than kill teams, and it's a lot more swingy, I guess is the best word, because you can whiff everything, or sometimes you can like roll really hot and end up like a gun that normally fires only like twice or 3 times ends up firing like 6 or 7 shots.
I'll have to bust open that box and take a look at it myself. All right, gentlemen. Well, it's about that time. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight and talking kill team and rap game beef. And Tyler, how's that shirt line coming?
It's coming good. I just previewed some other designs and colorways that are coming back up. Pre-sales are going good, and then we have the All Our Bites Are Bastards coming back real soon with the long sleeve and stuff like that. The next couple weeks. So you can check that out at dicethrower.bigcartel.com or my Instagram, lowbrow minis.
Yeah, Tyler's been showing off those new designs. They're super cool. The crop tops I know have been kind of popular. Sierra said she definitely wanted to grab the black long sleeve of it, and you know what? I might have to snag one too, and then like get some booty shorts and pretend it's like the '80s. I think is when that was like gym wear.
It's not your standard going out clothes these days, Connor?
No, I'm afraid I do not look too hot in crop tops. I might have back in the day when I was actively swimming and had like a 6 pack, but now I don't do that as much. So I'm not, chiseled Greek god statue body anymore.
Hey, come on, belly in a crop top. That's hot. Just run with it, man. It's hot boy summer.
I mean, the dad bod supposed to be what the ladies really want. So maybe I will have to get one of those crop tops. No, not anytime soon.
You guys just need to get like a hard as fuck stomach tattoo, and then it's okay.
Like so Tyler, I need you to pick out a tramp stamp or a belly tattoo for me. What would you want to see on me?
Like in Old English, like really big, kind of like curving over the top of your stomach. Doughboy. I think that'd be really good. Like it'd look real hard.
Doughboy. All right.
Yeah,
Perfect.
like it'd look hard. It'd be funny, like self-deprecating. Especially like if you got like ultra fit, because like you're not fat, like so like it's extra funny.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'll remember that one. Then Connor, you got your tournament coming up, your KTC tournament, the initial tournament up in the Northwest. I looked and there's 3 tickets left as of this recording.
Yes, we sold 2 more today. I think that was the Small Brothers signing up. So thank you to the both of them. I'm constantly checking that like every day to see if we have new signups. So thank you to everyone so far that has. We, like Chuck said, have 3 slots left. We just went and ordered the prize support for it over the weekend. Thank you both, Brandon and Eric, for coming up to my neck of the woods. It was very much appreciated, especially you, Eric, for kind of showing me the way on how the hell to even start managing that stuff. But now I know, so hopefully we can keep using it for more awesome tournaments in the Pacific Northwest, Washington zone. But yeah, I'm super excited for that. Like Tyler mentioned earlier, tournaments are a good deadline for painting, and that's pretty much what this weekend is for me, is getting most of my terrain fully painted up and looking sexy, so I can probably put it on those boards. We're going to be having a mix of open and into the dark, so be prepared for that. And yeah, we got some cool prizes, so I can't. I'm gonna just tentatively say that, but there's gonna be some stuff that's out of production, so keep your eye out.
And Connor, where can the fine folks find you on your socials?
At Spanaway, SPANNAWAY at everything. And then, of course, at Vox_Cascadia. So you can get all the good news we talk about in photo form.
And I'm at Painting Cave Minis on Instagram. You may not see it on mine, but maybe on the Vox Cascadia Instagram, you can see the mandrake that I painted that I was totally unhappy with and is sitting in some LA's Totally Awesome right now because I'm stripping it. So, come on up next weekend and come see us. Also, if you can, give us a review on whatever platform you listen to us on. 5 stars is great. Also, if you can leave a comment and tell us how much you hate the AdMech, that would be perfect as well too.
I have control of the Instagram. Do not be leaving comments about how much you hate AdMech. Be leaving comments about how much greater they are than whatever faction Chuck's into.
Is that why I got blocked on the Instagram?
That is 100% why you got blocked on the Instagram.